welcome to Ideagen TV. Today I am thrilled and honored to have with us Jeff Peterson, GM of Industry at Microsoft. Jeff, welcome.
Hey, George, how you doing?
Jeff, it's such an incredible moment at Microsoft for so many reasons. One of which is ChatGPT, and also because of this new role you've taken on at Microsoft as GM of Industry. And I'd like to ask if you could kindly, for the millions of folks that are watching this program on Ideagen TV, to just illustrate for us your role and an introduction to the work you're doing and who you are.
Yeah, you bet, George. So hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Peterson. I'm the general manager for industry at Microsoft North America. And I emphasize the North America because, yes, we do serve US and Canada in my role. So I lead an amazing team of go-to-market managers across the US and Canada that have direct industry focus, right? Cover specific industries. But I also have a team of folks that focus on key horizontals, sustainability, for example, that plays across multiple industries. How we fit in to Microsoft is, Microsoft has a strong, proud heritage of some very detailed product lines like modern work with the Office suite and Teams and more, right? Our Azure stack, as an example. So my team, from an industry perspective, we bring all that together in one Microsoft story to help serve our customers. And ultimately, our goal and our drive, our impact is to help Microsoft build pipeline, right? Accelerate that pipeline and close that pipeline. And for our important customers, it's really to have that industry first focus to go to market with them, to speak in their language about the problems in their business, and then ultimately be outcome led, right? Help those customers achieve outcomes that are meaningful to their business.
And so, Jeff, that's just incredible to hear the continuum of the work that you're doing. And so, as a leader, how have you had to navigate change within organizations, and what were some of the strategies that you've utilized?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. And, like most tech companies, Microsoft is experiencing a tremendous amount of change recently. And dare I say, there's a tremendous amount of change coming with the power of AI and the future of work, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But how I handle that change, right? So first and foremost, it's transparency, right? I'm very transparent with the team because I think one of the worst parts about understanding change, managing change is just not knowing, right? So I'm trying to be uber transparent, number one. And there's 3 points. Number two, agency and empowerment. It's been said that people don't resist change, but they do resist being changed. And sometimes in this current environment, that is what is happening to people. As there's reductions in force, as people move on, we need other people to pick up responsibilities. And sometimes they're just told or voluntold, you will be doing this. And that's hard. That's hard for people to accept because they resist being changed. So secondly, to help manage that change, I have a very intentional focus on trying to give my team the agency and empowerment back, right? To the transparency to know what's going on, and then two, the agency to make decisions for them. So sometimes change happens to them. Other times, I want them to be part of that change and to have the agency to help influence it, right? So it's really about empowering your people. And then the third thing is positioning, I'll call it. And what I mean by that, George, is when change happens, I think it's really important that the team is grounded, right? Grounded with clarity on, okay, this change happened. We're okay. What's our differentiation, right? How are we uniquely adding value to the business? Speaking of adding value, what impact are we making? What do we deliver? And then third, getting the team visibility to the great work they do, how they differentiate, and the impact they're driving. So it's kind of those three things, George. I think when you put them together, helps me effectively manage change with the team.
And so, Jeff, as a leader yourself, what are those key qualities that you look for in a leader? And how do you then cultivate those qualities in others?
Yeah, George, let's start with telling you a little story on this one. And, because I mentor a lot of people and they come to me and they're like, I want to be a manager. I want to be a manager. How do I get to, be a people leader? And I have to tell you, I absolutely avoided becoming a people manager and a people leader for as long as I could. Right. I'm a do-it-yourself guy. I didn't want the responsibility of having to tell somebody what to do or be responsible for their career. So I avoided it forever until I was forced to the table. And I tell you that story, George, because I think it speaks true to then how do I lead and how do I mentor people. So coming with that mindset, right? Number one, I want my leaders to be self-aware, right? Know their strengths, and know where they need to develop. And I want to lean into those strengths. And I want to build a diverse team where all the leaders and members of the team have different strengths, right? Because we're better together. Secondly, it's empowerment. I trust my leaders. I trust the people in the team, and I empower them. Like I said in the last segment about making their own decisions, right? And we can talk a little bit more about how does that empowerment look, but then ultimately I also look for accountability in leaders, right? Say do is important. Another aspect of leadership that I look to is servant leaders, and I think that speaks to going back to when I did not want to be a manager. So as a result, I approach it from a servant leader's perspective. I wouldn't ask my team to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do. Right. And I view it's my job as a manager to help them and as a leader to manage the energy of the team, because that's one of the number one contributing factors to how productive they are. And number two, to help remove obstacles for them. Lastly, I look for authentic leaders. I hope my authenticity comes through in this interview. I think it's one of the things that endears me to my team.
And so how with your team do you foster a culture of innovation and experimentation?
Yeah, George, I love that because, that's where the job can be fun, right? When you get to create, you get to experiment, you get to do new things. I would think most of us don't want to show up to a job where it's here's your template, fill it out, or here's the steps you have to go through. Unless, of course, you're like a commercial airline pilot or something where we value those checklists very much. So what I do with my team is, like I say, number one, I empower them, right? I let them come up with their own plans and how they want to execute them. But secondly, I don't just let it free form. So I ask for a measurement. And the example I'll give you is, if one of my team members says, hey, I'd love to try to run this program. Great. What does success look like? What are you going to measure? And I usually don't care what it is, as long as they pick something. It's like 10 widgets. Great, 10 widgets. And the reason I do that is so that, as we check in on the program or at the end of the program, if the teammates come back to me and they say, hey, we got 2 widgets, without that context of 10, I could be like, well, that's great. Way to go. But with the context of 10, I can say, oh, you were hoping for 10. Why didn't you get 10? Why only 2? And I'm not scolding them. I'm just asking them to be curious and learn from that. At the same instance, they could come to me and they could say, we got 50 widgets. And I could in turn say like, oh, only 50? Why not 200? Right? Because if I don't have the context of the 10, and so the context 10 in this case, I would say, hey, you did 5 times better than you thought you were going to do. Why? Go get curious and learn. And the point there, George, of that story is I empower the team, but I ask them to set a measure of success. And the most basic reason is just to give them a reason to get curious and learn from that, right? And it also helps foster a spirit of accountability and curiosity.
And so, as we're looking at this incredible moment in time in terms of all the technological advances, what are some of the most exciting plans you have, Jeff, for 2023 and perhaps beyond?
Oh, so this is a tough one because Microsoft is doing amazing things and we have amazing technology. And I love, obviously, given my role, the industry focus that the company is putting behind their products and services. So I'm in a unique place right now to help Microsoft, figure out how to be great at industry in a subsidiary. Me and my team want to be the model for all of Microsoft of what it's like to be great in industry. We got the people, the tools, the resources, et cetera, behind us, the executive engagement and buy-in. So all that's very exciting. And what it's allowing us to do is truly be industry first, to go to market with that industry narrative. And again, beyond the language, but also speaking to the business of our customers and the outcomes they're willing to achieve. So it's an exciting time at Microsoft because all of the stars are aligning, right? From the strategy to the people to our partner organization. I think we're all on the same page more than ever, and we're industry first and outcome focused. Now, the second aspect of that, George, is we just don't know what we don't know yet, and things are changing rapidly. When you consider the future of work and what AI is bringing. Microsoft and some of our competitors have had some big announcements in the media recently around like ChatGPT 4, et cetera. Microsoft had a big announcement a week or so ago about Copilot. I'd encourage you all to go to YouTube and check out The Future of Work and watch that video with Satya and Jared on the future of work and where they show you what Copilot is. But like all of you, it's happening fast and it's happening in real time. And I don't have all the visibility right now to, what's going to be available when and the collateral, et cetera. So we're kind of learning about this together. But I see, another key aspect of my team is being adaptable, right? We have amazing momentum and amazing plans in place, but we need to be adaptable to capitalize on this moment because this is a humongous moment for all of us.
And when you say humongous moment, I've heard things like it is akin to the discovery of electricity, to things relatable in human history that were those profound moments in time. And so ChatGPT 4, Copilot, we need to be adaptable. And that's such great advice for our global audience, is to remain adaptable, because there will be so much impact, incredible impact and advancement. And we're watching it, and it's happening so fast, Jeff.
Yes.
That's what's really just so amazing. It's just the speed at which it's happening and transforming the technological landscape is just profound. And what an incredible moment for you to be leading a team at Microsoft right now as GM of industry is got to be just, awe-inspiring, because I can tell you, I'm awe-inspired by this interview and feeling that palpable moment of, it includes the impact of what we're talking about. And so we're looking at short-term goals, we're looking at long-term goals, and you're working on both with your team. How do you ensure, though, that your team focuses on both those short-term and long-term goals, recognizing that perhaps short-term and long-term may change in terms of the depth of time as things progress so quickly?
Yeah, George, great question. So the marketer inside me and my marketing background says, two core principles of marketing is we get to be productive disruptors and future thinkers, right? So, we need to balance right now more than ever. So I think balance and adaptability, which we just talked about, are key. So from a balance standpoint, right, we have to deliver for the business now. So, to manage short-term goals with my team, we created what we call flying information goals. And, going back to that empowerment piece, we created these goals together, right? These are shared team goals, and everything the team does ladders up to those. And so obviously we have our internal rhythms where we review, not only the individual OKRs, but also like the team for the industry OKRs, et cetera. At the same time, we do our strategic planning, right? The future thinking piece, 3 to 5 years out. And this is where I think we need to be really adaptable, because I think we are at a major inflection point. I think Satya talks about, AI has been around for a long time. And it's being used more and more, kind of more in the autopilot approach, to use Satya's words, that it's been used in the background, right? On search engines and other stuff. The inflection point that you see happening now is that the AI is no longer behind the scenes. It will be out front, empowering humans to be more human, is the way I like to look at it. So to be both those productive disruptors and future thinkers, it's a balance, right? So we're delivering for the business now, but also being adaptable to change our plans and pivot. And so having, a monthly, quarterly, annual rhythm, it really helps us a lot. At the same time, George, we're looking out 6 to 8 quarters to make sure we can deliver on the business.
Incredible. Jeff, these insights are both profound and just so beyond insightful. And I'd like to ask you, you mentioned adaptability a few times during this interview, and I agree. And I've always agreed and thought that adaptability is so critically important, whether you're in Washington, D.C., or Seattle, Washington, or anywhere around the world. And this rapid technological change and innovation led by companies like Microsoft. You're at the fore of this technological revolution, if we want to refer to it as such. And I believe that it is. And so I'd like to ask you, Jeff, when was a time where you had to adapt? When was a time that you had to adapt your approach or strategy to changing market conditions or customer needs like we're talking about today?
Yeah, so a tenet of our team, George, and I think one of the ways we differentiate and add value for Microsoft, being in the North American subsidiary, is that we have the luxury to be agile and responsive, right? Staying close to the market, our customers, and the field, our sellers and partners, to really understand what the market opportunities are and to make sure we capitalize on moments that happen in the market. A lot of the corporate teams that set, the overall corporate strategy, A, they don't have the proximity, and B, they can't be as agile to pivot and change. A couple examples of that is, I'll bring up one from a couple years ago that, not to bring up a painful memory, but is a perfect example, is when the pandemic hit. And then testing for COVID became readily available. So at Microsoft, we had partners, product, and services to put together solutions rapidly to enable, mobile testing facilities, and we could roll it out across the country. So this is a perfect example of how we're agile and responsive to a market condition and moment, right? We were able to, not capitalize on that because, we weren't in it to make money at that time, but really to enable and empower local states, governments, municipalities, et cetera, to meet that demand. A second area, which I think is near to where you're sitting in Washington, D.C., is like the Investment in Infrastructure and Jobs Act, IIJA. Tremendous investment by the country. And a lot of money that will be trickling out over time over the next 10 years to local states, governments, municipalities, et cetera. But it doesn't all happen at once. And so, we have a team inside Microsoft that's helping to look at this and helping our customers really to be adaptable to changing market conditions, because a new grant will come out, right? And you have about 2 months to respond. So here's another example where we can help be agile and responsive to help our customers navigate things like IIJA, right? Sometimes we may have a solution or offering, sometimes we don't, but we're still going to be here to help our customers.
And so you're collaborating externally. Let's chat a little bit about internally. How do you collaborate with other teams and other departments at Microsoft to ensure this vital element of collaboration and alignment?
Yeah, George. Industry and serving our industry customers is a team sport. So I can't iterate that enough. And I think, like most organizations, you have groups and functions and silos. But I think it's one of the core differentiators for our industry team is that we are the team that brings it all together on behalf of the customer, right? So instead of the customer getting hit from this function or this product line, et cetera, that we're the team to help bring that together and coordinate, starting with our account executives in some of those first conversations, right? Industry first and outcome focused. And then we help orchestrate from there, help the teams orchestrate who to bring in when, et cetera, to make sure that our customers are getting the outcomes they achieve, number one. And number two, that we are growing at scale in Microsoft, that we're not just going in with a point solution, that we're going in with everything Microsoft has to offer to help support that customer in achieving their outcomes.
Jeff, it's just profound to hear all of these incredible insights and how you're leading. That leadership is so critically important. And you've worked, obviously, on so many initiatives during your career. I'd like to ask you to kindly share an example of a project or initiative that perhaps you're most proud of, understanding there are so many. Is there one or so that you could point to?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to my last role. So I'm fairly new in my current role, George. And as you said, it's a super exciting time because it's exciting for just the industry focus that Microsoft has. And then, 100x exciting with the future of work with AI. But recently in my past role, I was the go-to-market manager leading for our business applications business. And again, a very product-focused business, covering many industries, multitudes of product applications. And quite frankly, George, the business had not been performing very well for several years. So I had some great partners in, for example, Ashley Haynes-Gaspar, a former guest on this program and still a sponsor and supporter. So I partnered up with Ashley and some others. And our most important, I think, accomplishment was the turnaround of the business applications business within Microsoft. And why that's important and why I'm in the role that I am now, George, is we established an industry-first and outcome-focused strategy for biz apps. So we bucked the trend and we went speaking in the language of the customer, right? Getting to know and understand their businesses, and then ultimately delivering on outcomes that matter to them through business applications. And that strategy, very focused strategy, led to the turnaround of that business. So we went from quarters after quarters of not making the numbers to years of making the numbers. So I will say it's kind of maybe not a once in a lifetime, but a once in a career opportunity to really drive that much change that fast and turn around a business. It was super exciting. So,
Jeff, having been a witness to a portion of that moment, I've got to say it is profound. And what an incredible example for our global audience of your global leadership on every level, being able to help motivate the teams, being able to create that critical impact, and ultimately being able to develop that change that leads to the ultimate impact that we're talking about here. And so you're now GM of industry at Microsoft North America, including Canada, which is incredible. Congratulations there again.
Thank you.
And so along with that, I'd love if you could share for our global audience, again, those millions of folks that are watching this interview, your vision for the future of Microsoft's industry and how you plan to position the company for success in the coming years.
Yeah, I love this question, George, and this one really makes you think, right? There's so many ways you could answer this. But I'm going to start with talking about one of the things I mentioned already, right? Industry is a team sport, and not just the Microsoft team, right? The global team. All of you watching, the 17 days of sustainability is a great example, right? To get those done, it's a team sport. So I truly believe that we are better together and we do great things together. So first and foremost, I envision industry at Microsoft as being that team sport, being the team that pulls it all together. But there's also a couple, not just very pointed at the industry, but a couple key horizontals that lay across of all of industry that are important to all of us, that are critical. One being customer experience, right? The customer experience space is a huge market, and it's critically important as we move forward. Customers are demanding a certain level of personalization. I can't wait to see what AI and the future of work unlocks in that personalized customer experience. It's going to blow your mind. Secondly, the area of sustainability, right? This is a team sport. We can't do it alone. So I'm really proud that Microsoft is still maintaining a huge focus on sustainability, and that it sits within the industry team and covers that horizontal view. And I think I said earlier, George, it's my vision, in the short term, that my team establishes the model for what it's like to do industry right, including sustainability, customer experience, et cetera, inside Microsoft, right? And then share that with all of you. Longer term, right? I see the stars aligning, right? We have the people, we got the team. We're getting some great investment. We've got tools and processes and tech in place, and we have executive support. All these things are coming together, to help us build programs that turn industry problems into outcomes. This helps our customers, right? And ultimately, it also helps me turn those problems into Microsoft sales. So again, I think this is a huge inflection point. I'm super excited about the focus on industry. 100 times more excited about the focus of AI and the future of work with ChatGPT, et cetera. And this is a tough question, George, because I can envision that short term and focus on delivering now and being great at Microsoft and industry, but at the same time, it's tough for me to envision what the future will look like, given that inflection point we're at now. So again, we need to be future thinkers, need to be adaptable, and ultimately it will be a bright future. Looking forward to it.
Well, as if we couldn't be any more inspired and enthusiastic. Jeff Peterson, thank you so very much. Innovator, leader, changing the world. Jeff Peterson, GM industry at Microsoft. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, George. Really appreciate the time.
It's an honor.